everybody. My name is Rami Martin Galiatovich. I am the program director for the Project on Positive Leadership. Welcome. I'm so glad everybody's here. Normally we do this on campus at the University Club, but they've been closed down for a little bit, so we had to switch out to Shelby campus, so thank you for coming all the way out here. And housekeeping, there is Wi-Fi here if you need it for your phone or your laptop. And I don't think you need a password, right?
Yeah,
if you're
good.
You're good. If you're a visitor. So I'm going to introduce the Project on Positive Leadership for those of you that don't know about us. Oh, also wanted to say thank you to Todd Creek before I get started, who's on our advisory board. He brought us Focus today, which is a caffeinated drink.
Caffeinated sparkling water.
Caffeinated sparkling water, which I love, by the way. So thank you. So help yourself back there. So the Project on Positive Leadership is an interdisciplinary unit in the College of Business, and our mission is to increase positive leadership in the world. And we do that in multiple ways. One of them is an activity like this, or an event like this today, which is an instructional tool showcase. We have a repository of instructional tools on our website around all kinds of things. And so today, we have two speakers. Our academic director, Ryan Quinn, and Dr. Patty Payette from the Delphi Center at the University of Louisville. They're going to come talk to you today about decisiveness and patience. So welcome. I also wanted to say that we do other events throughout the year, the Tyree Family Distinguished Conversation Series. We have collaborations with virtue experts, people who are experts in certain virtues. Denise is one of them. She's here today. Patty's actually one of them. We also just created an advisory board, and so we have two. I just want to acknowledge two of our advisory board members, Susan Beach from Home of the Innocents and Todd Creek from Focus, so thank you. Okay, I'm going to introduce Patty, because you guys would rather hear her than me probably, but Patty is an expert in applying critical thinking skills to everyday problems and questions. She's a trainer, coach, and scholar. And she consults with leaders and educators on the design, implementation, and assessment of projects and innovations. Since 2007, Patty has served as the executive director of the Quality Enhancement Plan at the University of Louisville at the Delphi Center. This is a quality improvement component of our institution's accreditation status. And other institutions, I know you just were visiting one.
Yes, yeah.
Regularly rely on the tools and strategies that Patty and her team have developed to inform their own faculty development and organizational change efforts. Patty earned her PhD in 2001 from Michigan State University and was tapped to help build the Office of Faculty and Organizational Development. Her numerous publications focus on critical thinking, building, and best practices in promoting change and fostering collaboration at all levels of the organization. So let's welcome Patty.
Thank you. Thank you, Rami.
You're welcome. I'm going to get you hooked up.
Okay, so while she is hooking up, I have got a few slides today. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm going to work with you on a kind of approach that I work with faculty at U of L and other institutions, but primarily at U of L, which is taking a theory or practice and applying it to your everyday life or your everyday work. So my work and the work we do at the Delphi Center with faculty is taking a lot of research and best practices on teaching and making it accessible and usable and compelling and helpful for faculty. That's essentially what educational developers do. So I'm really excited here today because I want to explain to you about some concepts around decision making. We're going to practice as a group on a little mini case study, and then I'm going to actually have you use a tool to think through a decision that you're thinking about or grappling with, or maybe you're avoiding, a decision you're avoiding in your work, and have you practice this tool. Because the real power of using a new idea is only when you apply it and see how it works for you and what it does for you. So that's what I'm going to have you do. We're going to really spend some time helping you try this tool out, okay? This is not just something for you as a thinker, but something you can do with committees or groups or a colleague when you need to think something through together. So that's a synonym of critical thinking, which, sounds like this, academic buzzword. I have a lot of articles on critical thinking where I always start with like, it's this buzzword that kind of seems like it means everything and nothing at the same time. And really the synonym is thinking things through, right? So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to start by talking a little bit about assumptions and practices we have decision making. So when we think about decision making, there's those decisions that you make throughout your day. And there's a category, I would call them fairly effortless. So it might be what you're going to have for lunch. Although some days I think I should have thought that through more. But so what you're going to have for lunch, or am I going to go to this party or not? I need this tool. What store do I need to go to, right? These are very quick decisions that often do not require us to spend a lot of time thinking about it, okay? And then there's those decisions that are more effortful. And these are decisions that might be effortful because they're layered and complex in our lives or our work, or they might be effortful because they have far-reaching implications for our employees, our clients, our stakeholders, or ourselves. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit first about these two types of decision making. Has anyone read this book, Thinking Fast and Slow? Okay, so you all, for those of you who read it, for those of you, I'll talk a little bit about that for those of you who haven't read it. So Daniel Kahneman talks about two types of ways of thinking that we do as human beings. Okay, that's the thinking fast and the thinking slow. Okay, so he puts them into two different categories this way. Talks about system 1 and system 2. So when you're making decisions, your brain is either in system 1 or it's in system 2. Sometimes you might be toggling between them. Sometimes you might be in system 1 and you found, oh, really, I should be in system 2. Or you've been in system 1 and then you're like, or you're in system 2 and you're like, okay, you eventually move that decision-making mode into system 1. So system 1 is, again, those unconscious, quick conclusions that we come to. Again, lots of it's operating in unconscious. We don't have, whether we're driving on a routine path or we're in the grocery store grabbing what we need. So this is the beauty of system 1, is that it is sort of our automatic pilot. Sort of the downside of system 1 is it's so error prone. We rely on generalizations, stereotypes, routine, jumping to conclusions. And again, sometimes that works for us and sometimes it doesn't. System 2 is those decisions that, oh, okay, I gotta think this through, right? So this is what I mean by this effortful. We're conscious, we're fully conscious of, okay, what's the purpose here? What am I, okay, do I have all the information? Oh, wait, I have to think about this person, right? Okay, well, I'm thinking about this now, but I'm not sure how it's gonna play out 2 weeks or 2 years. So this is what I mean by that complex and layered. And while system 2 gives us the benefit of time and parsing things out, we also know that system 2 is prone to blind spots, biases. This isn't necessarily this is a human condition, the blind spots, not having the whole picture, making assumptions. So we see that both 1 and 2 are not fail-safe. But what we can do is use a system of thinking things through that help us catch our biases, help us monitor the quality of our thinking. So the process that we're going to do today is designed to not only slow down your thinking, but help you identify the things that you can't see, or investigate assumptions that actually aren't based on good information, but you're pretty sure that you're right. You're pretty sure that you're right. Has anyone read Catherine Schultz's book, Being Wrong, Adventures in the Margin of Error? She's written a whole book, and so much of her research is on the nature of mistakes. Is because we don't know their errors are mistakes. We're absolutely sure, right? We're making the right decision, and then we find out, oh, right, I didn't have all the information, or I was so sure, whether it's I parked on level 3 and I spent 30 minutes and actually I was on level 2, right? We've all had those experiences where we're absolutely sure and we cannot see our own blind spots. And that's a fairly facile example, but obviously our blindness can trip us up in all kinds of ways. So her work is really interesting if you're really curious about this whole idea about we don't know what we don't know. So the process that we're going to try out today is based in the work of Richard Paul and Linda Elder. It's based at the Foundation for Critical Thinking. And some of you, if you're from U of L, may have seen this before. Bonnie, you're nodding, yes, as a faculty member, she's seen this before. This is an approach to critical thinking that when I was hired to lead this project at U of L to infuse critical thinking, we needed a approach. We needed to have a common understanding here at U of L. So we did a lot of research on different critical thinking frameworks. And part of the reason, and this is just a piece of the framework, this is called the elements of thought, it's the elemental. Part of what appealed to us is this approach is discipline neutral. None of these words are specific to engineering or French, right, Bonnie, right? Or nursing or business, right? These are terms. In 15 years, I've never had a faculty member say, oh, thinking about data or information or concepts, that's not part of my field, right? So the appeal of this is the way that it uses everyday language to break apart our thinking and help us think things through. So the tool that I developed and that I've used in various iterations with faculty and staff at U of L are based on this framework. We're not going to go into the framework. I do have some books where Rami is. I brought in some little handbooks if you want to learn more about the framework or critical thinking, help yourself. But we're really going to start with this, again, the elements or the foundational pieces. So before we kind of practice with this, I want to point out a couple features about this. So I've already mentioned that the vocabulary is designed to be everyday terminology across disciplines and in contexts, right? The other piece is, why do you think it's in the form of a wheel? Anybody want to venture a guess? Why would the form of a wheel be helpful?
You can start anywhere in the process?
Yes, absolutely. You can start anywhere in the process. And what else? Iterative, yes. I don't know who said that, but thank you. Yes, iterative. Right. So the idea is you can start anywhere, absolutely. And you can focus on, maybe you're just talking to your team about implications and consequences. Maybe you're just in point of view from your different stakeholders. Maybe you're just focused on those two. That's fine. It's designed to be, where do we need to enter in? What do we need to think through? But where I typically start, and this is kind of where you're going to start, is we typically start up here and we go clockwise. We start with purpose and we go clockwise. What's my purpose? Purpose drives the process. I'm sure the people I work with are tired of me here. Purpose drives our process. How many times have you gone to a meeting and you're there because you believe, or you're running the meeting, this is the purpose, and everybody else has a different purpose, or there's lots of other purposes that come up, right? And then you're like, whoa, wait a minute, okay, what's our goal here? What are we focused on? So we've actually, not only do we put purpose at the top of a lot of our meeting agendas, at the Delphi Center, or when we're working with partners, purpose or purposes of this meeting, right? So right there, we have a focus for our conversation. But we also have now, when new people come and join our team, we start emails with the purpose of this email is. That's how we start our emails, right? How many times you get an email and you're like, wait, what's my, right? I need, purpose is to inform you, or to inform you and ask you, or to whatever. So purpose is seemingly simple and self-evident, but it's a really important way to start. So we start with purpose. Okay, so our purpose is to think through this. What are the questions at issue that we need to think through? What information is going to help us with that question? And sometimes, again, this I find sometimes here, all of a sudden, all this, I don't have that information. That's an assumption, not information. I need to go back and get more data. Interpretation and inference, right? The conclusions we draw from information. All right, so what do we know from this information? How do we understand? How do we make meaning? Concepts. So we're going to practice using concepts. These might be concepts from our industry, concepts from leadership. Concepts are lenses that influence the way you're thinking about this information. Assumptions. We find that students often have the hardest time with assumptions because they're self-evident, because they're hidden. So we surface assumptions as a way to, that's what I mean, people come to a meeting with assumptions, right? So one of the ways we clarify assumptions is talking about what our purpose is. Making things evident. Implications and consequences, all right, so we're thinking through different options we have once we have data, once we've surfaced our assumptions, and then points of view. Sometimes what happens is you go through this and then you're like, wait, I have to think about this through the perspective of my colleague. And then you're like, now everything changes. That's the iterative, okay? So thinking things through means, and then the context we have here, all right? So context changes, right? Depending on, am I thinking through this with this committee? Am I thinking through this at the organizational level? Is this one-on-one with someone? Is this just me as a leader thinking through a hard decision? So these things change when your context changes. Okay, so you ready to practice? Ready to practice this? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna practice as a group before I give you a chance to dive in. So in your packet, and if you don't have a packet, please raise your hand so Rami can get you a packet. You have a decision-making toolkit. So here's how we're gonna practice. I'm gonna give you a mini case study, which is based on an actual situation where a friend said to me, can you help me? I'm struggling with a business decision. Can you help me? I said, absolutely. So we got together. And so I want to share with you a little bit of the context, and then let's walk through, because we've got so much collective wisdom in this room. I'd be really curious to hear, as what we call going around the wheel, about what you would surface. So here's the scenario. So my friend, I'll call her Stephanie, says to me, I opened my small business and I've only been open a year and I'm thinking about closing my business and I'm struggling with that decision. So I know her because I knew her before she opened the business, and then I was a customer while she had the business open. So while I would say we're friends, I would say maybe, not good friends, but enough that I have some context, but I don't have a dog in this fight necessarily. So her scenario is she was a personal trainer and she decided to sell her services independently, like she wasn't part of a gym. So she would come to your house and do personal training. She would have community classes where she would do personal training. If you said to her, hey, can you create a nutrition plan for me or a weight loss plan and coach me? Absolutely, so like a wellness coach. So she did that for several years. She had a part-time employee who helped her. She was very successful. So she decided, I'm gonna open a gym. And I'm gonna have a brick and mortar component, right? So she opened a gym, she hired a few more employees, she rented a space, and then she gets a year in and she finds herself completely overwhelmed and not very happy with the amount of time it takes, with the complexities of moving this business into this context. So when we look at the top of this thinking things through a worksheet, that's the context, okay? She's coming to me, she's feeling stressed about this decision. So let's walk this through together. Let's practice this through together. Purpose. What was her purpose in coming to me? How do you understand her purpose? Yeah,
Find
Tom.
some clarity,
Okay,
a different perspective.
get some clarity, right, so a different perspective. Okay, what else? Other purpose? Advice, okay. But even in the thinking, what's her purpose as a thinker?
Is she doing the right thing or not? I don't know.
Okay, so that's right, yeah. So that could be a way. Have I done the right thing on opening this business, Maggie?
Make a plan or have a direction.
Okay, so I have a direction, right? So, yeah.
An objective viewpoint, but she's clearly in it. You're not.
Right.
More objective.
Right. There's some of this clarity, right? Getting that external perspective. I'm sure you all know how powerful that can be. We've all had those light bulb moments where somebody external to our situation gives us a perspective that we go, oh, and we get so much clarity. So what are the questions at issue for her? What question or questions, what's at the heart of her coming to me? Like when we sit down in the coffee shop, which we did, what was the question, you think? Yeah, Patty.
Does this really make me happy?
Okay, does this really make me happy? I would say that's right. That kind of a very personal, emotional, right? Question. What's the other question she's thinking through?
Does it make financial sense?
Does this opening this business continue to make financial sense for me? Yeah. What the hell? Right. All of those things, right. Okay, yeah.
Within the business scope where she wants to do personal training, she may be more successful one-on-one coaching, teaching, leading, mentoring, health and fitness, diet, etc. Once you start opening brick and mortars, once you start expanding the business, now you're opening up different departments of the business to make it run. So whether now you have employees, you have an HR department. Well, I didn't think about that because I'm not HR minded. I'm more physical fitness minded. So
Right.
knowing that she wants this business to exist, being able to leverage the different pieces that have to come together in order to make it tick. Similar to the pie chart. So for elements of thought, it would be the business. Now you have all the outlying pieces of information that go within to run that business, no different than
Right.
a deal. So she may be great at the information, solving someone's problems, and the purpose for her business. But then when it comes to interpretation and inference of understanding how to operate the financial side of the business, or marketing of the business, or dealing with customer relations and problems.
Or even spreadsheets,
So
right?
as she
Reading a
sees-
spreadsheet,
Yeah,
right?
as she sees that developing through her process of growing this business from being in your home to a brick and mortar, now it becomes, wow, I'm overwhelmed. I didn't realize I have to do, like, I have so much mind and head space into these three pieces of the pie. Now I can't focus on the other 5 pieces of the pie. What do I do? Holy crap.
Right, and maybe those 3 pieces of the pie is why I got into this business in the first place, right? So what I love about the questions that you asked is notice that the questions were both about sort of with that business end of it, Do I keep this business open? But you also got to the other question, the emotional level, right? Of what did I get myself into? Is this making me happy? So I just want to point out the power of actually articulating the questions as opposed to just letting them stay rattling around in your head. Yes?
So the relationship between the purpose, not necessarily the function, and the question could be, would I feel comfortable with myself 10 years from now?
Thank you for that. Will I feel comfortable with myself 10 years from now? So this is another reason it's iterative. Maybe you think this is the purpose and you get to the question and you start asking yourself, you go, oh, okay, the real purpose is I'm taking a long-term view to try to understand this question. Do you see the beauty of peeling back each layer of the onion and letting it see how that reality feeds the other elements?
From a place of social capital, though, you're probably also, if it's me, from a social capital lens, I'm trying to determine who in my network can I talk to. Because if I talk to you, I may be coming to you because I know I'm going to get the critical lens. If I talk to you, I may be coming to talk to you because it's like, you've done this before, and what am I missing? What am I not thinking about? So in that network that we have, we're determining who can we trust to have the conversation with, and then who, from that place of reciprocity, do we feel like we're going to get the information that we need from a source that's reliable?
Wonderfully said, Karen, right? Is it Karen? Karen, wonderfully said, because again, I feel like what you're pointing to is point of view. So Stephanie is going to be thinking about, well, of course I'm going to have this conversation with my partner, my person, my life partner. Maybe I'm going to have it with my business partner. But so the value is sometimes, again, we have a lot of questions and we struggle to tease them out and to figure out what information do I need, who can best give me that information and that perspective. So she's asking herself these questions. So what kind of information does she need to answer this question? She needs to look at, obviously, financial. What other information should she be drawing from in that scenario, sitting in the coffee shop?
I think another concern is that she's in a position right now to work with people one-on-one. So if she goes to a gym, grows the gym, she kind of loses that. Her purpose is to help people better themselves.
Great. Awesome. So part of maybe what she's asking herself is, wow, I've changed my business model, and that's changed my lived experience of who I am as a coach, right? So that's information about her lived experience. So again, you notice this doesn't just privilege, like this is just about, are you financially sound or not? It's asking you to draw from what's relevant, all the information that's relevant. Again, not all of these might be relevant for every decision. So we're going through, I'm asking her information. She's maybe going to also be thinking about her lease. She might be thinking about her employees, right? She's teasing out these various pieces here. And then she's making meaning here, right? She's making meaning. Okay, so I'm thinking about all this data and facts and information. Now, so I made assumptions about my lease and about my landlord, okay? So does she actually have evidence, or was that actually an assumption? Oh, you know what? I need to check that. I need to make sure I'm drawing from solid information. A lot of times we're drawing from a feeling or an assumption. And so what this does is helps us make sure when we make a meaning-making move, it's solid. We have the information. So let's talk a little bit about concepts. So what are some of the concepts, right? Concepts are lenses that represent paradigms and ways of thinking. So small business. What's a small business owner concept, a lens that she might bring to this question? Got a lot of entrepreneurs in the room. What do you think?
Is this sustainable long term?
Okay, is this sustainable long term, right? Yes.
Personal goals and aspirations in terms of what she wants from the business
Okay, so she might be asking herself about, as a business owner, what are my goals here? But what are also, I'm thinking about like concepts that would be true across the industry, or a small business, like a way of thinking as a small business owner. Yeah.
Are there ways to collaborate or partner either formally or informally to achieve the same goals without the same level of complexity?
Okay, who could I partner with? Right, I'm a solo person here. Are there other ways I can maximize my work by working with other partners? Yes.
I was just thinking, is the business scalable? When she came in with this concept, I would think that it's scalable.
Okay. All right, so she's thinking about scalable, and that, again, can think about human resources, financial resources, space, the actual space, right? Before, she didn't have to think about space. Yes?
How do I get out of it?
Say it again.
Exit. How do I get out of it?
What's my exit plan? Right. Exactly. Yes, Tom, and then back there. Oh, Patty, go ahead.
I was kind of thinking if she were to have the frame of, like, say, positive psychology or values-based work, to think about what is it that I really want to be getting out of my work, and then if you have that concept of this is how I need more from the relationship aspect, or I need more to connect to the outcomes that I'm seeing with, the people that we're coaching. So if she was going to reframe the work that she's already doing in a different way, where she can get more from it, or ask for support for the operations if she doesn't like that part, well then let's define and maybe use some sort of system to do that, or assess that. What is it that you want more of?
Okay, I love that, because that helps us think about, maybe it's not a zero sum. I either open it or I close it. Maybe there's other ways I think about farming out part of this, or like I think of, again, in a purpose in a small business, what's our mission? So maybe it's how does looking through these different lenses inform my mission, and vice versa? Yes, Denise.
Piggybacking off of that, you could look at maybe mergers, or maybe she could find somebody who'd want to buy her out.
Okay.
So there might be other ideas besides,
Awesome.
exit strategy.
Awesome. Great example of another way to think about a concept and how it might apply, Tom.
Thinking back to when she started the original business, again, going back to, she wanted to have personal one-on-one going into someone's home. What made the decision to change the business model to a brick and mortar? Was that a part of the original business plan? Instead of finding 5 more Stephanies, to go, as Todd said, scale that. So if the original concept was to go into your home, now want to grow, do you want to grow into the building, or do you want to grow into the business? Growing into the business,
Wonderful.
finding 5 more Stephanies to go find their network and their market, right? So you have a capacity of, let's say, 500 of your sphere of influence that you're going to grow this business from. Now you scale it times 5, now you're up to 2,500 from the business side of it. Now you have 5 more Stephanies out there doing the same thing, still without the overhead, still without the insurance, still without the building struggles. Now you're scaling something that you're comfortable with.
Okay, wonderful. You're actually really nicely getting us into assumptions. Yes.
Layering across what you're showing here to a lens type of discipline I was taught some years ago. In decision making, the way I think about a problem is 5 lenses. One is, if you were to make a decision completely on your intuition and your gut, what would that decision be? The second one is, if you were to make a decision 100% on data and logic and all logical things, what would that decision be? The third way would be a mixture of those. If I could have 70% of the data and make the last part of it on my gut.
Love that.
What would that answer be? The fourth one is, as someone mentioned, I'm going to assume I don't have the answer. Somebody else in this room probably has the answer, and I need to go to their brains
Love it.
to figure it out.
Love it.
And the fifth one is, if I went through all those other 4 and I still don't have an answer, then it's okay not to have an answer yet. It's okay to push that to tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you. Really rich. Thank you for sharing that. And you also brought up another point, is that notice here that because it's iterative, it's also, that's why I put the emphasis on thinking it through. Because maybe what this does is gives you depth and breadth to your thinking, and you're not going to decide today, but you're going to live with this kind of like, well, okay, let me think about that. Let me think about the perspective that I just heard. Who else do I need to talk about? Oh, I played this out. Let me ponder what that means for my gut, for my head. Maybe I don't have all the information. So that's why I put the emphasis on thinking it through, because this is a process. This is process driven, not product driven. It's process driven. This is designed to give you a process to enter into in ways that serve your purpose, which might be making a decision, or it might just be, I need to think this through with my team, and then I need to go away and make a decision, but I'm going to use this as a tool to think with my team. So it's so flexible and can be used in all those different ways. So let's move on to a couple more things here, and then I'm going to have you practice doing this on your worksheet. So we get into assumptions here, which is maybe I made assumptions about why am I doing this to become a owner of 3 gyms, or am I doing this because of my love of working with people? So maybe what happens is I start to surface assumptions that influence then my purpose and how I think about all of these things. Implications and consequences. So I'm sitting there with Stephanie. Okay, in decision making, I use this term, trying on the jacket, right? Let's try on the jacket. Let's say you do close. How does that feel? How do you think about that? What happens? Wait, we play out those implications. Okay, let's take off that. Let's put on you keep it on. How does that feel? What does that think? And the power often of the trying on the metaphysical jacket, meaning like a psychological commitment to this before I decide, is it gives you time to live that consequence through your head. And you will see it differently when you you could make a psychological commitment to try on that decision. So you're spinning out implications and consequences, and then you get up here to point of view, right? And again, you can also start there. You can start anywhere on the wheel. But again, the power of point of view, we're egocentric creatures. We can't get out of it's effortful to get out of our point of view, our perspective. So an egocentric creature, one value of going around the wheel is I'm rolling around in my perspective here, and I'm getting it out. I'm exploring it, I'm pushing it, I'm identifying my blind spots because, oh yeah, I just assumed this about that loan. I actually didn't have good information. And here I am here, so I need to go back and get better information. So point of view then lets us roll around in our point of view and come up here and go, who else do I need to ask? And again, maybe you're asking, you could go to your colleague, and again, you're choosing which one. Maybe I go through the whole wheel, maybe I go through pieces that I know this person can help me with. So that's the beauty and richness. So I'm going to have so I'll take questions, and then I'm going to have you practice this.
Well, I was just thinking back to the very beginning of this decision. What is the competitive makeup of the market, and is there a need? Other than Norton Commons, obviously, if this is come and go, is there really, they think, oh, we're going to live in Norton Commons, and we're going to have all these people that live there, but is there a need for that business in that community?
Absolutely. So that's an assumption here. I'm sitting with Stephanie and be like, so is this about your situation in the marketplace? Is this about the context for where you are, right? I mean, there's lots of things to tease out. And I probably spent an hour with her doing this. And does anybody want to guess what we ended up? What do you think we ended up deciding? Or she decided? It was interesting how clear it was for her at the end of the conversation.
More research.
No. Close her business. She decided to close her business.
I was going to ask you, one of the things I found with people is sometimes how they come to you for information. Like, okay, so sometimes people are coming to you to be a sounding board and to get your advice. sitting here with you, where on the continuum are you in terms of making this decision? Because why would I sit there and, no offense, but, it's like you just need somebody to listen and say, sounds like a good decision to me.
Right.
Do you think you need to ask? Yes. Why?
What's right? What are you looking for out of this conversation? How can I best help? What's our purposes? Because again, there's often multiple purposes in, right? So surfacing that can be really helpful. And sometimes someone says, well, what I want is to think it through, and you find out, well, they just want you to validate. So then you can say, okay, so I had some assumptions here, or tell me your assumptions, what you're really looking for, right? So again, the beauty of the vocabulary is it lets you talk about and point to what's invisible, which is your thinking and other people's thinking is invisible. So having this vocabulary allows you to point to it, take it apart, use it, yeah.
In that situation, I wouldn't want to make her feel bad. I'd be like, how can I help? What can I do today?
Okay.
That is important.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. All right, so now you're going to take a chance at doing this with a question or decision that you're thinking through. I really want this to be authentic for you. I really want it to be a decision that you are grappling with personally or professionally. And it's not enough to just mentally tick it off. Writing it down is a powerful meaning-making opportunity for you. And you can start anywhere you want. We often start with context and purpose because it's like sliding in. It's like sliding in, and it helps drive the rest of the questions, all right? So you're going to have 10 minutes. And you might not get to all of them, and if you get stuck on one of them, skip it and move to the next one. Okay? Okay. All right, let's do a debrief, and I'm going to do it this way. So I asked you to slow down your thinking, and it's sort of like what I say to faculty when they come to a workshop. I say, I'm going to ask you to take something that's very close to you, which is your own teaching and your own teaching decisions, and think about it in a new way. So I sort of asked you to take something very personal and very immediate and asked you to think about it in a new way. So thank you for slowing down your thinking. So I want to hear feeling. Just shout out. What feelings did slowing down your thinking, how did that feel? Just shout it out. Cathartic? Comforting? Purposeful? Maggie, what were you going to say?
It made me feel somewhat impatient. I was like, I'm not comfortable thinking about these things.
You're comfortable, like, I got this, yes. What were you going to say?
Me?
Yeah, did you have your hand?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Bonnie? Focusing, okay.
I guess some people would say centering.
Centering. Stephen?
Because this is already something I've been thinking about, I feel like I just got it down on paper and I need to go further.
So like affirming? Like,
Yeah, I didn't get anywhere yet.
okay, oh, you didn't get anywhere yet. All right. But it organized kind of what you've been already thinking about, maybe? Okay. Anyone have a humbling experience? Sometimes I have a very humbling when I do this and I go, ooh, I actually don't have good data for this. Ugh, that's all assumptions.
A little fearful, like, wow, this is something I've been thinking about, but
Ah.
actually putting pen to paper.
Powerful, isn't it? Powerful. It's a tool for you. Okay, anyone have like an aha moment when they did this? An aha moment or a light bulb went on or they saw it, Maggie?
Definitely that I have more paths than I realized. Like I need to open my mind a little more.
Awesome. I love that. She got that just from her own. Imagine if she had opened that with her colleagues, even just one or two of these questions, right? Maybe there's a whole lot of paths, right?
I have a whole lot of assumptions, but not a whole lot of data.
Okay. So, and we could do just a whole workshop on assumptions. Sometimes assumptions are from your lived experience because you've been in this industry or this work or a long time. And sometimes those assumptions are based on experience, but sometimes they're actually based on a blind spot or a bias or a preference that we just want to go around the wheel to get to the decision we want, right? So I know we're a little bit short on time, but what I'd like to invite you to do is think about how you might use this in your life. Like I said, I use it with teams or committees. I was talking to a colleague who was like, well, what if people on your team are going to be resistant? And so we were talking about that. And I said, well, one thing you can do is you can give these questions to people individually. If you feel like other people are going to censor, well, that's not, I don't have that assumption, or no, we don't need to ask them about that, right? So you can also use it to ask people and to get information. There's lots of ways to use this tool. Now, I have some resources for you. There's some selection of these books back there that actually give you more questions for like implications or concepts. Like if, I want to ask this deeply, but it gives you a little more material or tools that you can use. I also have one, I meant to bring more, and I ended up only by accident bringing one of these. I thought they were rolled up with some, which is if somebody wants like, I want to put this in my office or my conference room, I even have command strips. So if somebody's like, I really could use this today, I'm happy to give this away to somebody. And I have more, so you can email me. And I'm happy to send you more materials and more. Like I said, I got a lot of that. I've been doing this for 15 years. I got a lot of stuff here. Can anyone just share, one or two people before we wrap up here? How do you think you might use this? How do you think you might use this? Yes?
I don't have that answer, but I was just having an observation about this.
Yes?
But it's all the other questions after the number one question are validations of the first. So you have a purpose, and then when you see what is the question at hand, right in front of you, if you do have an answer, it validates your purpose. If you have the right kind of information that you capture, you can ask yourself, if I have all this information, does it fulfill my purpose? Same thing with every single question.
So are you saying that because it's a positive, or you feel like that's a weakness?
I think not just it is extremely positive, number one. Number two, I think the foundation of all this is question number one. Once you
Yes.
have the actual validation of your purpose, the rest of the story falls in place.
Thank you. Purpose drives the process. Purpose drives the process. Anything you do. Whether it's unconscious that that's your purpose, bringing that implicit to explicit is a powerful move for you and the people you work with. Patty.
I'm stepping into a role for the Kentucky Psychological Association, being president of our board, and I've been on the board for a while, and I feel like sometimes we go around and around on things, but don't get to the action or getting the thing done, and I think this might help us narrow in on something like, okay, so we're saying we need more information. What do we need? What's the,
Perfect.
Or we're making assumptions, or whatever the part we're stuck on, maybe it can help us move through that so
Yes.
that we don't just keep mulling over things.
Absolutely. Again, pull the piece in for where you need it. Like where, yeah. So all right, well, I think we're going to take a break, Rami?
Yeah, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Okay, and again, I'm happy to answer questions or some follow-up materials. I'll be here the rest of the morning, but also my email.